Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I will be joined by my co-host, Michael Hall, here very, very soon. The title of tonight's episode is The Lion's Den, and the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. My co-host, Hall, should be here very soon, but to join us, I thought I'd bring another Mike on here. You know, we just need one more for this show. Mr. Mike Callow, ESPN Radio. Thank you, brother. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I figured it was National Hat Day, so that's probably why I was on the show today. You know, that's why I assumed.
Yeah, that's a fantastic hat, by the way, that you're wearing. The burgundy and gold DC. Absolutely love it. But, you know, you had a fantastic weekend, and you weren't the only one. Of course, the Commanders went down to Tampa Bay, and so did yourself. So, first off, how was your time down there? And I knew that Washington really represented well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest here. I was only there probably for like 18 hours, but that was part of the reason of going was to get in, you know, get out, and flew in down there Sunday afternoon, probably around 3, 4 o'clock, hit up Cigar City Brewing, walked over to the stadium. We were very well represented. I would say, I don't know, 30% at least. And then, you know, after the game, Tampa fans very quick to scatter, our fans not. And then it turned into a party. Fantastic game, fantastic atmosphere. Stadium's fun. It's nothing crazy. I'll be honest there. I don't know if you've been to Tampa, but
I have not.
It's fun. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. Pirate ship, and it kind of looks like Disney World a little bit. I mean, that's the only thing I could really describe. But, you know, fun trip, amazing game. And of course it came down to, you know, the last play of the game. How else would we have written it up down there in Tampa?
Absolutely. I'm sure the weather was fantastic, of course.
Yeah.
But Mike, let's get into this game this weekend. Washington is walking into the Lion's Den, and this is going to be a tough one. Obviously, coming into this game, Detroit is what, 14-2, 15-2. So we got to why, in your opinion, why does Washington have a chance?
I mean, starts ends with number 5, right? I mean, if we're going to go with the most important position on the field, you go with number 5. I'm fresh off of my show, and I opened my show up today with this. You know, remember when we played the Bears, and the Bears fans were going, "Oh, who have you guys played?" And, you know, kind of counting their chickens before they hatch. Then we literally broke their franchise for the rest of the year. I decided to take a page out of their book and decided to go and look at who the Lions have played. And it wasn't about opponents. It was about quarterbacks. And you go through their schedule, man. The elite quarterbacks they have played was one. It was Josh Allen. Josh Allen beat them 48-42, I believe was the final score there. I'm not knocking all the other quarterbacks they played, but we know better than anyone else. Jaden's one of one, that MVP level type quarterback. It starts and ends with number 5, and they have not seen a guy like him since Josh Allen, in my opinion.
Okay. Didn't they play Lamar Jackson? I think the Ravens destroyed them.
Did they play the Ravens this season? I don't know if they did or not. I can actually pull up their schedule. I still have it from the show.
I saw somebody posted a graphic earlier, either on Facebook or Twitter, that I saw where it was like they played Lamar, like the same skill set. Maybe it was last year, but from what I saw,
think that was last year.
Was it? My
bad,
Callow.
I know it's all good. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They played the Rams, the Bucks, the Cards, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Vikings, the Titans, the Packers, the Texans, the Jags, the Colts, the Bears. Stop me when we have a great quarterback, by the way. The Packers again, the Bills. There we go. The Bears, the 49ers, the Vikings, and you know, now they get set to take on the Commanders. Like, we could have arguments about Purdy or Jordan Love if you want, but like elite quarterbacks, it starts and ends with Allen this season at least.
All right. Now, Hall, do you have a question for Mr. Callow?
Yeah. So we know that, like, obviously, like you just said, Josh Allen put up like 48 points on them. I think I just saw a graphic watching NFL Live before I got on here that they're like 31st or 32nd in the league against mobile quarterbacks, so like yards per carry with the quarterback. Everything against the mobile quarterbacks are like bottom like 4 or 5 in the league. Do you think that Cliff is going to be looking at that, or has some type of like analytic like notes on that, and is going to use more of Jaden Daniels in the run game this week? Or do you think that the way to beat this Lions team is going to be through the air with Jaden Daniels in his arm.
One thing I will say about this, talking with Bram Weinstein, who you guys know, of course, is the voice of the Commanders on the radio side of things. Bram had a great point today on his show, and it was just before I answered that question. It was the Lions are like 30th, I think, in their pass defense. The reason that number is actually there is because so many teams are behind so fast on them. Yeah. So these pass yardage is a little bit inflated because they're playing complementary football. We know how that worked a lot of times this season, right? So that's the first thing I'll say on that. As far as it comes with Cliff and how this offense is going, I think you don't overthink this. You put the ball in Jaden's hands, and you don't have to necessarily design a run here. Jaden's been fantastic at making that decision by himself. So I think you give him the option. You have a little bit of RPO there where they burned some teams there once or twice in certain games. But I think Cliff here, you don't overthink it. You do it with what you do what works. And what that is just putting the ball in his hand. What I've actually loved the most about these last 5 cardiac games that we've had, where they've won at the last second every single time, right, is that he doesn't overthink it. He just lets number 5 do what he does, and you trust his decision-making. So maybe you start doing that a little bit earlier, but at the same time, I'm not going to stress out if they keep this sucker close going into the fourth quarter because we all know what could happen at the end there.
Absolutely, sir. And who is the unsung hero you could see showing up for Washington in this game, Callow?
So we already had Diami Brown be it last week, I think, right? I think we would call him the unsung hero. Let's go to, the other wide receiver by committee. Let's go to Zacchaeus here, man. Like, that's who I think could be the guy here, because now you're going to have them worried about Diami Brown too. Like, they're not going to let him go unchecked. We all know McLaurin's going to, get double covered, and they're going to cheat to his side every single time. Let's go Zacchaeus here. Why not? Like, OZ has had some really good moments. I know he had some drops in that Cowboys game that made us all throw our hands up a couple of times, but I have really liked OZ all year. All he has done is catch mostly what has come his way. I'll go OZ here in Detroit.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I know he had the drop on the Diami pass and a couple other ones, but late in that game, he had a couple clutch catches to get us in a position to put that game away. So it's definitely a good pick. Flipping to the other side of the ball, obviously this offense for the Lions, they have weapons galore, one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the league. You can pick them or the Eagles probably. And like I said, weapons all over, crazy running game with Sonic and Knuckles. How do you see, or what is going to be the key for this defense to stop this offense if they can stop this offense?
I mean, we are the definition of bend, don't break for this game. We know they're going to put up points. It's going to be how many. It's keeping it, and my favorite phrase all season long has been striking distance. Can you keep this game within 7 to 10 points so it doesn't get out of hand where Jaden is forced to only pass the ball entering the fourth quarter? And so to me, it's going to be timely stops. And my sense here is you kind of let them run the ball a little bit, slow their own drives down, make it so they can't strike really, really fast. So to me, this comes down to Marshawn Lattimore probably shutting down or hopefully shutting down Amon-Ra St. Brown or whoever he's matched up on. Jameson Williams worries the crap out of me for this game. I can't remember the last time we played a speed receiver like this that can just streak down the field. So to me, it's slow that Lions offense down. You don't have to stop them every single drive, but slow them so they don't put up points fast, so then we can't play complementary football either. So to me, it's going to be kind of stopping the long pass. It's kind of letting them run. If you remember that Giants game, they let them run a little bit that second time around because they knew they couldn't strike fast. So to me, not giving up those big plays is pretty much where I'm at with this defense.
Yeah, Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2,000-yard receivers for the Lions. Obviously, they've been doing really well. Goff, 37 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Hopefully, I know that as of late, he has been kind of turning the ball over. Hopefully, Washington can capitalize on those, of course. But that being said, with the defense, like let's say, I know that you kind of already highlighted it a little bit, how to limit them. But who would you key in on defense? I know it's hard to do because they got a lot of weapons there. But are you going to key in on trying to limit the run more so than the pass? What are you thinking?
I'm trying to limit the pass more than the run, honestly. They're gonna get theirs. We know what this defensive line is at this point. I think we all want to see more out of Payne and Allen, but they are who they are at this point right now. And I would say just limit the explosives. That's where I've landed now. So hopefully Bobby Wagner's good to go. He didn't practice again today, which really worries me. I mean, he's going to have to practice because it's a short week. So he's got to practice tomorrow if he's going to get in the game. I mean, I know they make exceptions with veterans sometimes, but if he doesn't practice tomorrow, that is a huge red flag because at the bare minimum, he should be able to clean up some of those runs. It's not going to be every single time. But to me, limiting those explosives, including the run explosives, it's going to key in on him quite a bit.
Absolutely agree with you. Now, Callow, to wrap this up, only a couple more questions for you. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury, do you think that he's going to leave?
My gut says no, actually. He said out loud it's going to take a lot for him to leave, Jaden in this offense right now. And I think if we're being honest here, look at what Ben Johnson has done, not just last year, but for the last 2 years. He's kind of waited for his perfect scenario. Cliff's been a head coach before, was handed a head coaching gig in the NFL before, being a head coach before in the NFL. You know what I'm trying to say there? And my gut just says no, because I think he's going to wait to see if there's another open scenario here. I think the one that everyone was probably looking at, too, was the Patriots. Like, Drake May looks like he's the truth, right? So who wouldn't want to go there? Cliff knows Caleb, but I also think Chicago is kind of like us. They're a little bit of a dumpster fire before the team got sold. So I think Cliff's going to wait and see what he's got going on next offseason for me. That's just my gut feeling. I have no inside info on that one.
No, I totally agree with you. I'm right there with you. Now, my next question for you, sir. The penalties, how big of a concern is that for you at this moment?
It's huge. You need to have a perfect game to beat Detroit, essentially. And we've actually seen it a few times this season where the penalties have bit them pretty bad. You go to the Steelers game where there was literally one that probably lost them the game. It prevented Jaden from even getting another shot at the Steelers. I talked about it going into the Tampa game last year. I'm actually not as concerned about the defensive penalties. It's going to happen. The secondary, we know who they are, too, as well. It's the offensive penalties for me. If they have another one of those drives where they're in the red zone and they get a holding penalty or a false start penalty and it pushes them back, we've actually seen they can't quite overcome those. I mean, it's like 50-50, right? But I point to the end of that Falcons game where Jaden got the ball back and then penalties killed them. And luckily they won the coin toss and went on to win that game. Offensive penalties, huge concern, like 10 out of 10 concern, because we know how the Lions are. They need to have a really close to perfect game. Penalties will prevent you from doing that.
Absolutely. And obviously, Bram's brought up something I was going to bring up later. But of course, he expertly talked about the defense for the Lions. They're fourth in rushing yards allowed, and then they are 29th in passing yards, which correlates a lot to their big scores, right? It takes away the rushing attempts, and it makes it easier on you a little bit. That being said, what is one area that Washington has to get better in from last week in order for them to be in a good position to win?
I would say we need a little bit more out of Brian Robinson. I know he improved last week compared to what he was before. We were ready to have some real tough conversations about number 8 with how he was performing. But I thought he was baseline fine last week. But it's getting some more yards out of his runs. I thought Austin Eckler was great last week, both the run and the pass. I think the reason he played in Dallas is because they knew that they were going to need him going into the playoffs. And maybe Brian Robinson eases up a little bit too here because, I don't know, this is just a gut feeling as well. Maybe he was feeling the pressure of, I'm the only kind of pro running back. We like McNichols, we like Rodriguez, but you and I both know they're not game breakers, right? So I think maybe he was feeling that pressure a little bit. Maybe he knows that paired with Eckler, they can kind of hold things down. So to me, it's more Brian Robinson and getting a little bit more consistency out of him because we also saw what happened at the end of the game last week too. He didn't have great runs, but he kept the ball secure, and they salted away that game. So maybe he builds on that. But for me, it's definitely Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Austin Eckler did look like his old self in that game, really helping this team. That last catch he had on the last drive was absolutely huge. Before you get out of here, Callow, we started a little bit late. Before you get out, you just like to plug your social media handle in your show, brother.
Yeah, of course. You can get at me at Mike_Callow, both on Twitter and Instagram, because that's where we're posting clips these days now. I, of course, co-host with Bram Weinstein as well. His show's on every day at 11 on ESPN 630. So feel free to check us both out there. And yeah, we're wall-to-wall Commanders at this point, as we should be at this point, this time of the year. And of course, you guys have seen Bram on primetime now at this point. He's getting a lot of run. So he always brings a lot of expert nuggets, especially on Fridays after he talks with Dan Quinn as well. So it's always a good show for his as well.
My man. Enjoy your night, sir. Enjoy that hat as well. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, guys. See you.
Appreciate it.
Always,
All right,
always
brother.
love having.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Mike Callow. Always appreciate his time, being able to come on here and talk with us. A fantastic voice himself, as much as he calls Bram the voice. But, Mr. Hall, before we get into Detroit and all the talking that's happening, you weren't here at the post-game pod. I mean, not only do we get one post-game pod, playoff pod, we get two, brother. How are you feeling, man?
Man, just going back to Sunday night, that was crazy, crazy, crazy game. Like, finally, the playoff demons have been exonerated. Literally haven't won a game. I was in high school the last time they won a game in 2005. Like, literally, I was in high school. So, 20 years later, to go back to Tampa, basically where the last one was at. It's definitely like a full circle moment, and it's like one of those things where it's like the stench of like the past and like the Dan Snyder era was finally like just gone in the wind, in the breeze of the Tampa Bay breeze with that wind down there. So definitely great great performance by Jaden.
Right.
Defense definitely played better than I expected. I thought that they were going to have trouble in the run game. And I mean, honestly, Baker did kind of light him up. I think he only had like 3 incompletions. It's just they literally didn't have the ball for him to do more damage to the defense. So, just looking back on that game, Cliff did a hell of a job. Offensive line started off a little shaky, but as the game got on, they definitely picked up their game. And like Mike was just talking about, for them to get the ball back, first of all, when we got the ball back with 4 minutes and some change left, I'm sure, just like a lot of the Commanders fans, my first thought was, man, it's a wrap. We got this game locked, because I knew that Jaden was gonna bring it down the field and ice the game for him. So it's a hell of a game, hell of a performance, hell of a game from Cliff and the defense and Joe Witt Jr. Hell of a game, bend but don't break. And if they're gonna, just looking forward to Detroit. If they're gonna have a chance in Detroit, and like we were talking about, like Mike was talking about, be able to keep it close and within an arm's reach coming into the fourth quarter, they're going to have that same kind of game plan where they're going to have to kind of salt away the clock, ice the clock, and keep that high-powered offense off the field. So can't wait for Saturday night.
Yeah, that last drive, I wasn't nervous at all about getting points. I felt very comfortable about Washington being able to do that. They've shown it many, many times. My biggest concern was liquidating the clock, not allowing them to be able to have time to come down the field to kick a field goal, because Cade McClellan, their kicker, he's very, very good, and he can nail it from anywhere, really. And so that was my biggest concern. But as soon as Todd Bowles called that first timeout when they got the first down, so they hadn't run a play yet, as soon as he called that timeout, I was like, yeah, dude. That was the play right there. But that being said, I'm not sure. Have you seen the clips of the Detroit fan? I'm not sure if they're podcasts, they're radio. The one guy that has a better setup, it's like more like a studio kind of setup. I got to give him credit for that.
Woodyard, whatever the thing is,
was basically saying that you guys have no chance in this. You think you want Detroit, because they showed the clip of the crowd in Tampa yelling, "We want Detroit, we want Detroit," and he was like, you better watch out what you're asking for. Have you seen that? What's your reaction to that?
Of course I've seen that. My reaction is, I think I quote tweeted it. I don't really have a problem with it, because at the end of the day, they're the better team. I would like, if I was a fan of the Lions, and this is what I've been building towards for the last 3 years, then I'd be talking confidently too about a team that's in year 3 and expected to be where they're at, as opposed to a team in year 1 that's just now, retooling things up. So year 3 versus year 1, I have a lot of confidence too. But for them to be like, I know, like they were like, oh, you only clipped off a certain part, because I know the guy was talking about, I love Jane Daniels, I think he's a great quarterback, blah blah blah. But that being said, if they lose this game, that dude better deactivate his social media and he better go into hiding, because Commanders Nation is going to be on his ass when that clock hits 0. But at the end of the day, I don't really have a problem with him talking like that, because, like I said, They're in year 3 and they're expected. They're the juggernaut. They're in year 3 of their build. They're expected to be here. We're in year 1, and we're already light years ahead of where y'all are at in year 3. So at the end of the day, talk confidently, and yeah, you should definitely to put in like better words. You should be dropping your nuts on the table
Yeah.
and being confident.
Yeah,
But
you're absolutely right. This is
don't
definitely
lose. Don't lose because them things will come back to bite.
right. This is definitely a time to put your meat on the table. For it's the measuring time, obviously is, and they've earned that right. Obviously, they've won a lot of games. They've dominated this year. They should be walking into it. And as a fan of Washington, I can understand where like the kind of frustration is in saying like in you being as good as you are. You're of course you're gonna come across that way. Have no problem with fans like that talking. Look, let them talk. That's fine. But it comes down to any given Sunday, right? And as much as it is that way, it's going to be difficult on Sunday. But as Washington, we're looking at it as this is going to be a really fun game to watch, because we have seen this team battle it out with some really good teams like the Ravens and others, and found a way just to compete. And that's probably the biggest thing that we're looking forward to, just to see, all right, where are we, right? And just a measure up contest, so to speak. But that was I will say the reactions were funny. It's just you can't be surprised with that sort of thing,
Of
man.
course, of course.
You really can't. Now, let's get to our fan questions. And this one was submitted by Tim Towner, which is kind of correlating with this. His question is, the bandwagon has started up and is ready to roll to New Orleans in the Super Bowl. What notables or celebrities have you seen that are trying to jump on our coattails to get on board?
um. Well, the guy
Dan
the guy that
Orlovsky.
hosts. Yeah, I would say Dan Orlovsky, but I would say no, just because he's been since like the pre-draft
I
process. He was
know.
saying Jaden was
I
his
know
number
that's
one
your boy,
quarterback.
bro. That's your
That's my
boy.
that's my dog. Love his highlights. His virtual reality thing he just did with Jaden against the Tampa Bay, like on the Terry McLaurin touchdown. That joint was actually kind of tight. But celebrities, I would say the guy on that host Nick Wright's show. What's it called? First Thing First. Kevin Wildes. He's been like a low key like got on the bandwagon after the Cincy game, and he's been like a low key like Jaden. Mostly because Nick Wright is like such a huge Caleb supporter that he just likes to piss him off and like go at him about that. But obviously Jaden's been better. But he's been like a low key Jaden fan and like a low key Commanders. Like he wasn't all the way on the bandwagon. He was kind of on the back of the bandwagon, pushing it from behind. Like someone was sticking their arm out, and he's running after the train, trying to jump on and catch onto it. So I would say him. I say Rich Eisen as well. Rich Eisen's been a guy that's been kind of loud and proud, like kind of waving that Commanders flag and the Dan Quinn flag and the Jaden Daniels flag. So those are like two people that come to my mind. There's probably like way more others out there.
Literally nobody that comes to mind, honestly, Tim, if I'm going to be honest with you. Just like bandwagon or celebrities. Like a lot of the celebrities that are fans of us are usually very loyal, very strong with us in that kind of sense. It's much more so like in the media and analyst world where people are starting to come around. Like as long as Drake doesn't hop on the bandwagon, I think I'm
Actually,
okay.
you know what we need? We need Drake to put a huge
Bet on the
one of his
Lions.
huge bets on the Lions this weekend because he's not a very good bettor.
Yeah. Now, let's next question from Andy Lockhart in the Discord. Hall, why do you think the Lions fans are talking a lot of smack? Is it because they are worried about what JD5 can do to them, or is it because they are looking for clicks, likes, or media attention?
I actually don't think it's either of those. Like we just talked about before, they're a really good team. They've been building towards this for the last 3 years. Like especially like I wouldn't even say the last 3 years because technically it's been 3 years since Dan Campbell's been there, but it's really been the last year and a half because last year obviously they went to the NFC Championship, and the season before then they started off like 1-5, 1-6, whatever it was, and they ended up winning like 8 or 9 straight or 9 of the last 10, whatever the hell it was. Ended up being 9-8, having a positive record, and then that momentum took them into this season to get where they're at, or it took them to the last season to get to the NFC Championship. Now they're back here, whatever, blah blah blah. Long story short, they're a good team. They've been building this up for a while, and they have really good team. They've drafted well for the past couple of years. So, like I said, this is the time, if ever, to drop your nuts on the table and say, "This is our year. This is our time." We've been literally one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL, from week 1 to week 18. They had the number 1 seed for a reason. One of the best teams, if not the best in the NFC, best roster in the NFC, maybe second behind the Eagles. So, like I said, this is the time to drop your nuts on the table and say, this is our year, this is our time. Would I be as confident if I was in their position? I'd probably say yes, just because that's the type of person I am, and I have belief in my team, which a lot of fans should. But at the end of the day, yeah, to each his own. Some fans are kind of humble and don't like to talk because they think of the karma aspect of it. Of, oh, it's gonna come back to bite me and da 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 da. I don't think it's for clicks. I don't think it's for any type of like, oh, they're scared of Jaden Daniels. I think literally it's just they're kind of like us. They've been down for so long. They're like, oh, we finally have a good team. Like we're gonna be loud and proud about it. Kind of like we've been.
So sit down, Andy. Listen a little bit. It's a mixture of both. I don't think it's about. Let me adjust that. I don't think it's about clicks or attention. I think that guy is just being brutally honest about how he feels, right? But the one point that you take out of that to say that the guy is scared is he said they are 1 win away from hosting the NFC Championship, and you think you're going to get in the way. That right there tells you that is his conscience speaking to you, that he is petrified because they are so close. That is what the standard is for them to make it to the Super Bowl. That's what they want. That's just like we have fans in our kind of community where they're very rah-rah, all about it. They're going to go, they're going to do all this. And obviously there's people like that, right? They're always going to love the team. And that's probably what the audience that he's clamoring to and trying to go towards is like, it's all about the positivity. We got this. That's what he's going for. But there is that concern that he does have there. I heard Philly fans on Spaces two or 3 years ago in that Monday night game saying how disrespectful it was for a Commanders fan to say that Washington had a chance against them. He said that is disrespectful to think that you had a chance against us. Then to come to find out, Washington ends up winning that game. And all I'm saying here is, I get where he's coming from. I'm not going to hate on him for feeling that way. But just like you're saying, be careful for what you wish for. This is a team that is finding a way to win football games. Of course, you've been bull rushing people, and you wholeheartedly should be that confident. But that is that in the back of his mind, that fear is obviously there. Where Washington's going in with it saying, this is a lot of fun. We don't have that pressure on us, and we just want to see how it goes. And honestly, when you go into the playoffs, that's how you kind of want to go with it, right? So look, I'm not going to say, like, why is he talking crap just for media? I think there is a sense that he is scared of this team because anything can happen in the playoffs. We've seen that many, 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 many times, right? Where some wild card teams have made it all the way to the Super Bowl and won it just because they started playing really well. And obviously, Washington is at that kind of disadvantage, but we like it that way, right? So we're going to go in, guns blazing, have fun. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's any crazy trying to get attention and all that jazz. I think that that's probably the type of fan that he is, and his audience really enjoys it, of course. But look, he might get crapped on by Washington fans, but at the end of the day, we're just giving him attention, right? Just for saying that. And credit to him, man. You should be feeling that way about your team. That's how we would feel, right? But hey, it is what it is. Now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Steve Manella of QB Impact. Steve, are you there, brother? I don't think he's chimed in yet. Do you see him?
I am here. What's up, guys?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. I'm on my phone, so the I don't know what happened to my computer, man. PC crashed on me, so I'm on my phone. Had to join on that, but all's good, man. How you guys?
Oh, well, it's playoff week, man.
Yes,
it's playoff week. And that being said, you being part of the QB Impact, you help young people trying to be able to be the best quarterbacks that they can. Right now, before we get into Jaden Daniels, I want to ask you, with Jared Goff, what does Washington have to do to Jared Goff to possibly be able to force some turnovers and to be able to give the ball back to this offense?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Kyle. I would honestly say you got to get pressure. You got to get pressure on them. Jared Goff has kind of shown in the past when he's got pressure on him and he's flustered a little bit, he can tend to get rid of that ball and throw it into opposing hands. So that's kind of what we're going to have to do, and what Washington's going to have to do. I know that's been kind of an issue though. Recent weeks, especially the interior line. I don't know what the heck's up with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, but they're just not getting a whole lot of push. Fowler's kind of been the only guy, him and Armstrong, but they're going to have to generate some kind of pass rush for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Get him to move his feet. Him and his big body, you can tell that he is not the most nimble. He's no Lamar, he's no Jaden, but he is more so that, that old school prototypical, I want to stand tall in the pocket, be able to deliver that football. If you get him to move his feet a little bit, you might be able to be working with something almost like the similar game plan they had with Michael Penix early on, where they were able to get that interior pressure at his feet, get him uncomfortable a little bit. Obviously, Jared Goff is a different animal altogether, not a rookie quarterback, of course. But with Jaden, what are you seeing from Jaden that is so different from that 3-game losing streak right now?
Man, it's crazy, honestly, guys. But I think Jaden Daniels has just he has set the bar so high right now for a rookie quarterback. CJ Stroud kind of did it last year, and Jaden, I think, has really exceeded that. No game is out of reach with him. And since those 3 games losing streak, I think that was one of the things. Is I think he just wasn't really healthy, right? I think the ribs were bothering him. And so now that he's been back and he's healthy, man, it's really, really awesome to see. And sometimes you just kind of watch the guy and you're like, dang, is he really our quarterback? Like, from all the years of hoping and hoping to finally find that guy. And I know I've seen Mike tweet about it so many times, finding the quarterback. We finally did it. So kudos to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and those guys. But man, no game is out of reach. He's special. And it's crazy because you hear like ESPN analysts, and other guys. Some are saying he's already the best quarterback in the NFC, which is crazy to think as a rookie. But he's just clutch, man. I see he's never flustered. He knows what to do with the ball. The other night that he scrambled on 3rd down, threw it across the field and hit Ertz for a big first down. Most guys wouldn't even want to try that, right? So, man, he's just so accurate too. The ball to Terry McLaurin early in the game was freaking awesome. It's I don't know. It's crazy to think, but we've hit the jackpot.
Dude,
So let's enjoy it, guys. Let's enjoy it.
now that ball to McLaurin
Seriously.
was right in the breadbasket, and there was pressure in his face coming up from the offensive line, and interior pressure. But the
Absolutely.
best throw of the game was the one that he had to Diami Brown in the end zone. You can go back and watch. I watched it on the All 22 today, where he's looking left, looks middle real quick, and then fires that ball into Diami. And, for somebody that only goes to his first read, it certainly did not seem that way on that play, I will say. Now,
Yes.
Steve, if you're down to answer some fan questions with us, sir.
Yeah, let's do it. I got
All
a few
right.
minutes. Let's do it.
So, Steve, the Colonel asks, the Lions defense has been banged up with 12 players on injured reserve. It's their highly potent offense I'm worried about. Can our defense measure up against Detroit's offensive juggernaut this Saturday night?
Yeah, that's a great question too. It's going to be tough. They've got to stop the run, right? That's going to be a big key. And I know Washington's run defense, our run defense is pretty poor, so that's going to be a big deal right there. I mean, it's going to have to, you got to step up and stop the run for one, and like we talked about, get some pressure on Goff. To be honest, though, guys, I really think we're going to have to score a lot of points. I think 30 at least is going to have to be the score because Detroit's offense is just really, really good. So it's going to be I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but if Washington fans think that we can control them to 17 points like Tampa or whatever the heck Tampa was, 20, whatever, I highly doubt that's going to happen unless Goff throws some picks. I just don't see that happening. So we're going to score some points. Luckily, it's in the dome. Won't deal with the weather. And again, Five has the ball in his hands. I'm trusting him. So I think we can pull off the big upset. You're going to have to score points, though, of course.
Yeah, and to your credit, the Lions offense, they're first in the league in points per game, averaging 33.2 per game. The Colonel, I will say this. I don't think it's much about our defense having to contain their offense. then I believe that they need to go in with the same mindset that they did against Tampa Bay, which is a very high-powered offense, which is liquidate the clock, be able to convert on third downs, possibly fourth downs. I'm sure that they know all of this. Be able to
Right.
take that clock away for long durations. Dan Quinn talked about this in his press conference where the best drive that he saw was in the end of the first half where we liquidated, I think, more than half of the clock of the second quarter, really taking Tampa Bay off of the field. That's what Washington has to be dedicated towards. And honestly, I think it's more about making Detroit play our game and keeping the points low, forcing them to have to, like, not allowing big plays like Callow talked about earlier, but forcing them to go down the field and then try to convert points after we do and we hog the clock. That is what we want to do. Keep the game close. We got to make them force them to play our game, and that's where
Absolutely.
it gets into inflicting of will. What do you think, Hall?
Yeah, our defense, I'm not going to say they're going to be able to stop them because obviously no one's really been able to stop Detroit all year. They're going to get theirs. They're going to get their yards. They're going to move the ball between the 20s. Like, that's what they do. I think it's going to come down to, can they hold up in the red zone and maybe force Dan Campbell to get into his aggressive nature and go for it on fourth down in the red zone. Maybe you stop them and they get key points off the board. Maybe you hold them to a field goal, which a lot of teams haven't been able to do a lot lately this year against the Lions. So I think it's going to come down to bend but don't break. Like, they're going to get, like I said, they're going to get theirs between the 20s. Once you get inside that red zone, it's going to have to be bend but don't break. And like we've been talking about pretty much this whole podcast, going back to last week, it's going to have to be your offense is going to have to be your best defense. They're going to have to stay on the field. They're going to have one of those 8, 9, 10-plus play drives to kill 6, 7+ minutes of a quarter. And like I said, keep Goff, the receivers, all those guys off the field. And I think a key is going to be if the defense can go out and get a stop or two early and kind of quiet the crowd down and take the crowd out of it, I think that's going to be a huge key for the defense as well.
Yeah, to Steve's point earlier about how well Jaden Daniels is playing, Steve, isn't it crazy he's doing that without a number one and a wide receiver two, without them adding a plethora of talent to the equation? It's kind of crazy, right? But Steve, this next question from the Colonel. What the hell?
Just think if they actually did, they'd be scoring like 40+ instead of like 28 or 30+.
They wouldn't be.
Right.
Now the next question from the Colonel, Steve. What the hell happened with Diami Brown last weekend, and where has that been hiding? He's one of our underperformers. I wasn't expecting to see season along with Benjamin St. Juste and the other lousy cornerback. Has he just not been utilized properly?
Yeah, I mean that's tough to kind of say. I mean, Diami has been a guy that has shown flashes in the past. We've seen him make some great catches in the past. He just hasn't had a consistent game like he did the other night. It was awesome to see. That's something Terry's really needed big time the whole year. OZ, as Coach Kingsbury will call him. He has stepped up big time as well. Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler in the past game, even B-Rob had a couple good catches the other night. But I really think that, yeah, if Diami Brown can do that consistently, then the Washington, all of us will be like, we don't really need to go out and get another number two, but he's going to have to do that consistently. I was surprised. I know, Mike.
Not all of us.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I know. We can't please everyone, but he's showing flashes. He played really well. Let's see if he can carry that momentum on to this week. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Where has that been hiding? I think it's a lot to do with the blocking as well. I think Diami has worked hard to be able to get himself in this kind of position, but we talked about it when Noah Brown got injured, Colonel, that these guys were going to have to step up, and they absolutely have answered that call. Like, each guy has had their own game where they have blossomed and done really well for us. With Diami, his early run was majority through end arounds, and he was still running very hard, doing a great job in that sense. And when we talked before the season, what was going to be a good season for Diami Brown? Well, it was literally just helping this football team win games. That is how you could have one of the best careers you could have here in Washington, and he has done so. I don't think that's about him not being utilized correctly. I think it's just him taking the advantage of the situation when it happened. And I think a lot of that has to do with blocking, because they have to, compensate for when that running play is going to happen, because the up-tempo offense you're going to be putting multiple plays in in one play call. So you have to be able to say, can this guy block? Can he be able to go out for a route, right? And so I think a lot of it is just to do with situation that they have been doing. But I will say this. I am very happy that he was hidden. It's just timing is everything, right, Colonel? And obviously he was brought up at the right, not brought up, but utilized at the right time.
Yeah, I think it's like a small percentage of his utilization, and I think a big portion of it is like guys like Terry and DeAndre Hopkins and guys, you can name the receivers on that list, they can thrive with whatever quarterback you put back there. A guy like Diami Brown, who's not like that high like tier, like top tier type of talented guy, he needs like a coordinator that's going to believe in him and be able to scheme him open. And he needs a quarterback that's going to be able to consistently get him the ball. And I think in the past, obviously the quarterbacks have been iffy, to say the best.
For
And
sure.
the past coordinators have always looked at Diami as, oh, he's just a deep threat. He's going to run a go route, a deep crossing route, deep post route. He's a decoy to take the top off for someone underneath like Terry or whatever it may be. Whereas Cliff looks at it as, how can I what do my players do best? How can I put him in the best position to succeed? And they said, okay, he has the speed. Let's use him in the screen game, the tunnel game. And once that started kind of building on that, they said, okay, let's use him this way, this way, this way. And I think now, and you can see he's definitely been working on his route tree as well.
Yep.
He was running some pretty good routes against
Great
Tampa.
routes.
But
For sure.
yeah, I think it really comes down to coaching is a percentage of it. Utilization in the past is a percentage of it. And I do think that a quarterback has been the X factor in all of this.
Absolutely, it has been. It's amazing.
Hopefully, like you said, he carries it to Detroit, because we all remember the other Brown, St. Brown, kind of yapping his mouth about Diami, like, oh, who's that guy again? Like, blah, blah, blah. So
For
hopefully
sure.
Diami kind of locks back in, looks out last week and says, he builds that confidence, like, okay, I can actually really do this in this league. And he builds on that game going into Saturday.
Yeah, and then the Ben Johnson aspect of this, of what he did to us last offseason. I know that there was a report out that he didn't take it because he thought that they were basketball guys and they thought too much of their football opinion, which is kind of crazy to me. The other one I heard was Lake Lewis on Rio's pod saying that Ben Johnson wanted Sam Howell to stay and to be the quarterback. I don't believe that to be true, to be perfectly honest with you. Because we know from the get-go that Adam Peters is going to be with the head coach in order to gauge on who the quarterback was going to be, not much more so of like Adam Peters knowing who he was going to take and saying, oh, you're not on my train, I'm not getting you. It was the coach and GM kind of mindset together, so I'm not 100% sure about that reporting. But I will say this, man, I'm excited because there's a lot of things to prove this weekend. Now, Steve, the next question we have is from Tony Franchise. I know a lot of people think the Commanders don't have a chance, but Detroit has a lot of people on IR and have one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Should the Commanders be taken more seriously?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they've proven that they've won 6 straight. Most of the games have been down to the wire. Just shows how clutch the team has been and Jaden Daniels has been. I mean, if I'm an opposing team, that Washington's not a team that you kind of really want to see. I mean, especially how good Jaden's been. So, Cliff can do his wonders with the offense as he's shown with very limited rushing attack. Let's be honest, and Dan Quinn's and those guys have done a great job on the defensive side. So, with some limitations as well, let's be honest. So now that Lattimore is hopefully back and can get a little bit more healthy, we'll see. But no, I definitely don't see why anyone would sleep on Washington right now. There's no way. I mean, they're one of the hottest teams in the league.
Yeah, look, you can overlook and doubt. Now, I hope that they do, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that we should be taken more seriously, Tony, because that only benefits us, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, just based off the stats and what we have done offensively, of course, you can't. But, like, defensively, in some areas, like especially running the football without Jaden Daniels, it's not something you can really hang your hat on from a statistical standpoint. And so there's no reason to really, but that's what should motivate this team and be the kind of reason why this team should be taken seriously, because they just find ways to do it. And in the playoffs, that's all you really truly need to do is play good, consistent, solid football, be safe with the ball, and take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. And this team
Absolutely.
has shown that propensity as of late just to be able to get these things out. And it's a very pressurized environment, Tony, and Washington has shown in those pressurized situations, they have exceeded expectations. So I'll say that, yes, of course, they should be taken more seriously. I just hope it doesn't happen.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, they definitely should be taken more seriously, but I just think it's like the Lions fans that are like not taking us that seriously. I know for a fact the coach
Vegas has it 9.5, right?
Vegas too, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that the coaches over in Detroit, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, and them are definitely taking this game serious because it's going to come down to can their defense stop our offense, and it's going to be. I think like last week, a lot of people thought like, oh, it's going to be a shootout. Tampa has a high-powered offense. The defense is kind of shaky. Our defense is kind of shaky, but we have a great offense. And it ended up being a lower-scoring game, 23-20. I think this is the week where it's going to be a high-scoring game. The offenses are going to go up and down the field on each other. And, yeah, it's going to be about who has the ball last. And at the end of the day, if you're looking at Jaden Daniels and what he's done throughout this season and not taking him seriously with the ball in his hands in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, then that's on you. Like you said, hopefully they're not taking us that seriously. Hopefully some of the players are kind of like, look at their roster. Look at who they've beaten, like all that mumbo jumbo. But, yeah, I just think at the end of the day, the coaches in Detroit are taking it seriously. I'm sure the players are probably taking it seriously because, like the one podcast dude said, they're 2 games away from the Super Bowl, 1 away from hosting an NFC Championship game. So they're going to be locked in. I think they're going to be ready to go. But just like they are, I think we will as well. So
now the next question from Big Tony Shivers. Last game, Diami stepped up big time. To beat Detroit Hall, which under-the-radar player would need to make a similar impact to get the W?
I'm going to say it's going to have to be Benjamin St-Juste. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this. I know a lot of people are like, why would you say Benjamin St-Juste? What has he proven literally this year? But obviously Lattimore, like this isn't going to be one of those games where Lattimore travels with A.J. Brown or travels with this person. I think that they're going to put Lattimore on one side of the field and say, hey, whichever receiver comes to your side, just try to lock that side down. And it's really going to really good. And obviously we know what Summerfield can do this year. He's showed that he's a pretty reliable source on the outside. Noah I's been pretty good, but I know like a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of offensive coordinators, when they see 25 get into the game, that's exactly who they're targeting. So I would just say if 25 gets reps and gets into the game, I think he's going to be the key player because, again, we've seen when he gets into the game, it usually goes bad, whether it's a first down on third down, whether it's a penalty to extend a drive, they go at 25. So St-Juste, if you get on the field, you better strap them chin straps on tight, tie them shoes on, and don't get beat.
I'm going to cheat for this one, brother. As much as I will say it's Austin Eckler for offense, I think the big one here for an underrated player that needs to step up for them to get a W, I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to say it's the safeties. Quan Martin has to keep the top on the defense, right? He has to keep everything in front of him. He can't get caught looking, allow Jameson or Amon-Ra to get by them. He's been a fantastic tackler this season. As a safety, you have to be a good tackler because you're the last line of defense in a lot of those big explosive plays, right? So you got to be able to come up, make tackles, and keep everything short. But in honesty, I truly think it's Jeremy Chin. Because of those wide receivers and the way that they run and how explosive they are, we're going to need that big hitting ability. We're going to need to knock some balls loose, right? Kind of like Reed on the weekends. So, like, you have to be able to pop these guys in the chin. And so I think Jeremy Chin, in that sense, has to be used very well, has to keep his mind about him, and be that force, that that they're going to think twice when running that route because you've come up and licked them a little bit, right? But also, Sam Laporta, you can't discount him. I think he's had 7 or 8 touchdowns this season. So that's somebody that Jeremy Chin has been the one they've lined up on tight ends, the bigger guys. And I think that's somebody you could really hang your hat on to say it needs to have a big game for us this weekend. What about you, Steve? Steve, did you leave us?
Oh, no, I was muted. My bad, guys. Yeah, I agree with both of those statements, honestly. Benjamin St-Juste, Jeremy Chin. I mean, secondary guys, right? They got to step up. We know what Detroit can do. Obviously, everyone does. If those guys can play well, we're in good hands, right? So let's hope so. And I think another guy could be Brian Robinson. He hasn't had a real good week in a while, so let's hope he can pick some things up, get some big tough yardage. But overall, again, like we both said, everyone said here, it's going to come down to, I think, who has the ball last again, and it'll be fun, just like it has been the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You want to say
I'll
something,
say,
Hall?
yeah, I was gonna say one more honorable mention. I'll say, I think Johnny Newton is gonna be a guy that's also gonna have a huge game because obviously Deron Payne got the dislocated finger. I'm sure he's probably gonna go, but
Dude,
how
duct
I don't
tape.
know, put a
Just
big old club on it.
duct
But I
tape that
think
thing
that
for days.
if Johnny Newton, Payne, Allen, whoever it may be on the line can get penetration up the middle, kind of slow down some of those runs, stop them in the backfield before they really start going to get downhill. And obviously, if you get pressure up the middle on Goff, kind of make him move off his mark or rattle him a little bit. We've seen in the past that Goff doesn't deal with pressure as well as a lot of other quarterbacks in the league. So I think the middle guys of Newton, Payne, Allen, I think those three are going to be key as well because if they don't get any interior pressure, it might be a long game with Jared Goff kind of picking us apart.
Absolutely. Just, wrap that thing up, Duran. Make it like Thor's hammer, dude, and just going out swinging with that thing.
Club
Knock it.
somebody, just clunk.
Yeah. Call the thunder and lightning, brother. You know what I'm saying. Now, Steve, this next question from Arch Deluxe. Washington has faced very few, if any, pocket quarterbacks this season. How do you think that will impact the defense?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, kind of what we started with. I think it's just kind of be that pressure. Interior defense gonna have to get some pressure inside on Goff, make him uncomfortable, and limit his rhythm, right? Limit him reading the field, hitting St. Brown, hitting what's the name, Williamson down the field for 80 yards. We don't want that. So limit him and get in his face, get pressure on him, make him uncomfortable. I think that's really going to be a huge key.
Yep, and it's similar to what we would win against with Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. I know they had some injuries to the offensive line, and they're no slouch, of course. But we saw with like Cooper Rush in the first meeting against Dallas, where he was able to sit in that pocket, be able to diagnose and pick things apart, right? And that's kind of the aspect that you want. You got to be able to move his feet a little bit. You got to get him flustered, of course, like we've said so many times here. But it's going to impact the defense greatly in the sense of what they're going to have to do to dedicate to be able to get that because of Detroit's offensive line. It's not going to be easy to get to Jared Goff. They're built for this. And so the big aspect is coming up with some unique blitzes that they haven't seen before, be able to confuse him a little bit and be able to get him off his base, get him flustered so maybe he makes a mistake and force some incompletions.
Yeah, I actually think it bodes a little bit better for the defense that a guy that's where he's going to be in the pocket. You know he's not going to get outside the pocket. You know he's not going to try to step up and say, "Oh, I see a easy 7-8 yards in front of me and try to run for it." He's not a guy that's going to break the pocket and make a throw and a run on the outside. So if you're a defensive lineman or a linebacker that's trying to get pressure on him, you kind of know like, okay, that's his mark. I need to get to that mark. And obviously he's good at stepping up and whatnot. But like you said, it's going to be a tall task because they knew that Jared Goff was like a statue in the pocket. So they pretty much put a wall in front of him so that he has all day to throw. So yeah, that's going to be the key. That's going to be the biggest key. Like I know people are like, oh, you got to stop the run. You got to do this. You got to do that. No, the biggest key is, are you going to be able to get to Jared Goff and move him off of his mark from snap 1 to snap 85 or whatever it may be?
Now, the next question from Arch for you, Hall, and then we can answer real quick before we start predicting this game. Fingers crossed that this question becomes irrelevant, but with 2 do not practices for Wagner so far, who steps up if needed? Walker?
Man, that's tough. If Bobby doesn't go or can't go, which I mean, let's be honest,
He's going to go.
he's gonna go. Like, there's no way he's probably even if he doesn't practice
Yeah.
tomorrow or Friday, he'll be out there on Sunday night.
He'll be limited
But
tomorrow
yeah,
or
exactly.
Friday.
He'll be limited. I think Friday he'll get a little bit ramped up a little bit more.
Technically, the Friday practice is tomorrow's practice, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
it's like Friday's like a walkthrough or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think tomorrow he'll get ramped up a little bit more, and come Sunday he'll be fine. He'll be out there on the field. But yeah, if for whatever reason the 1% chance that he doesn't go, who's gonna have to step up? honestly, it's like I think it's going to be Jeremy Chin. I think he's going to had to be the guy that comes down to the box and kind of plays that linebacker type of role in the run defense, the crosses across the middle, the blitzer like Bobby Wagner running the backfield, blowing up running backs in the passing game. So yeah, hopefully he can go. I'm pretty sure he will, but I think Jeremy Chin's going to be the guy to step up big time.
Man, I should have gone first
You
because you
should
had
have.
to steal
You
it.
should have. You should
He
I
have.
think
stole it from you.
Yeah, I know he did. Definitely, if Bobby doesn't go, you could say Walker's going to step in there. But if Detroit does come out in those empties that kind of to thin you out defensively, right? You could definitely talk about bringing Jeremy Chin up into the box, possibly adding in Percy Butler, Derek Forrest in the mix, so those two guys in the back end can stay straight, but then have the big body and Jeremy Chin to be able to nullify the run because he's done very well again on the line of scrimmage, and he's done a very good job blitzing. We saw that against Atlanta, where he came in for a big sack in that game, and so that's somebody you could utilize in that breath because we talked about pressuring Jared Goff. That's somebody you could easily lean on in that sort of scenario in those kind of thinner sets there. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, and I was even going to throw in, I mean, obviously he's always on the field too, but Frankie Luvu. I mean, he's a guy that's always around the ball. So what a huge pickup he's been too, by the way. We haven't even talked about him, but he's been freaking awesome. So, but like Mike said, I really don't think there's any chance Wagner isn't out on the field. So not too concerned. He had another great night the other night. He's been another huge pickup. Kind of that older linebacker, London Fletcher type pickup. Remember, and he's been just as good in my opinion, especially for the first year. Huge fumble recovery, really, really made it for a game winner. Honestly, let's be honest. So, yeah, he'll be fine. I think he's going to go, but other guys will step up. But the guys mentioned in Luvu as well, they'll do some work for him.
Yeah, the detail of Bobby in being able to go down for that ball, but using it almost like wrestling in the sense of being able to deflect Baker away by turning his body on it, not just landing on it, right? Allowing Baker to get his hands in there. He puts his back towards Baker, so Baker's hands are now nullified and out of the equation. Such a smart play by Bobby. But Steve, to wrap this up, let's give our predictions for this Sunday. Who's your unsung hero? I know we kind of already labeled ours, but who's your unsung hero and your prediction for the game?
Yeah, I unsung hero. I'm gonna go. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna say Austin Eckler's gonna have 2 touchdowns, total touchdowns. Okay, he's gonna get it somehow. Maybe one receiving, one rushing. Who knows? Another great
Rushing.
pickup, by the way. Yeah, I'm throwing it out there. Why not? And then
I could have
I'm
sworn
gonna
he's
go.
American.
Yeah, there you go. I'm gonna go 34-31 Washington. And the only reason why I say that is because I'm going to go Jaden Daniels, a game-winning drive again. Let's do it.
I'll say it's going to be 27-26. I absolutely love that Dan Quinn had them practicing outside in the snow, even though they're playing inside. I
They're
don't care.
practicing inside today.
And I know, but I'm talking about yesterday's practice.
Yeah.
Because, I said the theme of the week is the 506th Easy Company, 101st Airborne, and the Battle of Bastogne, in where one of the tank commanders had a quote saying, they've got us surrounded, those poor bastards. And that's what it's going to be like walking into that lion's den. It's going to be David versus Goliath sort of aspect, and I think this team has that wherewithal. They have that mindset that you need to going into against the juggernaut. It's not like a worry or a concern that you won't be able to measure up. It's much more so of just taking care of your game, and they have that fun aspect to them. And I think Washington could easily do it. So I'll say the unsung hero, I think, will be Jeremy Chin. And because I already said Jeremy Chin, I'll come up with another one. I'll say Dante Fowler. I think Dante Fowler needs to have a very, very good game to give Washington a chance. And that's against the run, and that's against the pass as well. The 27-24.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, like I said before, I think it's going to be the high scoring kind of shootout type of game that everyone thought last week was going to be. I think that Lions fans are going to be slightly humbled when they see that how our offense is humming, how we're actually playing in the game, how we actually came to play, how we're not like a doormat like all of them are talking about. I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and Cliff are going to have them ready to go. And I think that it's going to come down to one of those the last like 5-6 minutes of the game. Who's going to be able to execute, make a stop, something like that. And my unsung hero is going to be, like I said before, I think it's going to be the three interior guys of Allen, Payne, and Newton. If they be able to get pressure up front and then up the middle on Jared Goff, rattle him a little bit early and often, I think that bodes well for the defense. And it's basically like last week where my heart says Washington's going to pull this out because I just feel like it's like that type of like special season in the beginning of something that's going to be something special going forward. But my brain is telling me they're just a pinch better than us. Like not roster wise, like obviously they have a better roster. I just feel like as an overall team and like what we're doing right now, they're just a little bit better. So unfortunately, I'm gonna go Lions. I'll go Lions 31, Washington 28.
No.
Come on, Mike, you're fired.
Hey man, we can't all. One of us got to pick the Lions. We can't do a clean sweep.
What?
Pick them so you can jinx the Lions.
Exactly. We can't do a clean sweep.
Come on, man. Come on. Thought I'd already been in that.
31-28.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. I can't thank you guys enough for tuning in. Our next episode will most likely be on Sunday. So we will see you guys then. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just be excited to be in this situation, to be in this environment. It's going to be hectic. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. But I think we got the Warriors that have answered the call many, many times to be able to go in and kind of contend in that sort of scenario. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. Bobby, like we said, he's battling injuries, but I would imagine Bobby's not going to sit out of this one regardless. He probably do his T.O. impression. Even with a broken leg, he'd be out there if he could. But, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Steve, real quick, you want to put in your Twitter and your company, of course.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. QBI, Coach Manella, QB Impact Academy out here in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma, really, we're all over. But we have a couple others places in Texas and other places. But anyways, QB Impact, appreciate all the support. And then, of course, shout out to PFF. I still do some stuff with PFF. Nick's my guy. So a salute to those guys. They do a great job all the time. So thank you guys for always.
Of course, man. And again, I just want to say, Jeremy, I want that football. And Steve, I can't thank you enough for joining us as always, man. Taking some time out for us to be able to answer some of these fan questions and to talk about this historical game. This is going to be insane. And just remember, guys, the fact that we're here is a blessing and a pleasure. And just don't lose sight of that regardless of how this game goes. All right, everybody.
There's been this season has been a lot of, they haven't done this since 91. They've broken this record that's been a record since 91. There's only 2 more things on that checklist left to do since 91. Get to the NFC Championship and win that damn Super Bowl. So
absolutely.
I'm absolutely right. I'm right there with you, brother. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And say your prayers. Read your Bibles. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.